It's nice to have some support for an issue of natural resources, Mr. Speaker. Canada is blessed with natural resources, and I'm extremely proud of the thousands of Canadians who contribute to our economy through the natural resource sector. At a time when certain areas of our country are struggling, the Liberal government refused to stand up for these Canadians and take a clear position in favour of Energy East. From across our great country, there are thousands of people across the whole country, Mr. Speaker, through their employment who are either directly or indirectly impacted by our oil and gas sector. Even in my own constituency of Brandon-Souris in southwest Manitoba, there are many who work in our oil patch. These are reasonably high-paying jobs. These are jobs that support our local businesses and provide the necessary income to raise a family. We cannot forget about the billions of dollars that is generated from the oil and gas sector, which helps pay for the social services that we hold so dear in our country. It was a sad day to find out recently that TransCanada decided to terminate the Energy East project. This important pipeline was projected to create over 14,000 jobs during a 9-year construction phase, Mr. Speaker. It would have provided highly paid, skilled manufacturing jobs and economic opportunities, not just in the West, as I've said, but across the entire country of Canada. There is something terribly wrong when it's easier to import Saudi Arabian oil than transporting Canadian oil to New Brunswick. It's clear the political interference by the Liberal government with the National Energy Board review process is putting the future of our energy sector at a clear disadvantage. It's also clear that due to the political interference by the Liberal government, Canada will continue to import foreign oil. Over the past 2 years, the Liberals have introduced new regulations on Canadian energy projects and forced Canadian oil companies to comply with standards that are not required for foreign companies. Previously, the NEB, National Energy Board process, only included emissions caused from actually building and operating a pipeline. But now they have added upstream and downstream emissions. This is a completely new standard which will only deepen Canada's reliance on foreign oil and put the interests of foreign countries ahead of Canadian interests. Why is it that the Liberals are interested in putting Canadians out of work? I have two very important questions that I'd like the Liberal government to answer. One, will the Liberals finally commit to support pipeline projects that transport oil, Canadian oil, from Western provinces to refineries in Atlantic Canada? And two, will they stop politicizing the National Energy Board review process and stop giving Saudi Arabian oil executives a reason to cheer?
Parliament Secretary to the Minister of Natural Resources.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank the member from Brandon-Souris for his question and allowing me to respond. His comments remind us that there are still those who see resource development as an either-or proposition, a choice between either growing the economy or protecting the environment. His remarks also remind us that some people don't understand that climate action can be a competitive advantage, or that when a business makes a decision, it's called a business decision for a reason. It was a business decision when TransCanada Corp decided not to proceed with the Energy East project. However, Mr. Speaker, since the project was initiated in 2014, there has been a fundamental shift in global markets resulting from the shale oil revolution, including a 60% decline in oil and gas prices and a 50% drop in capital investment. Were both the revival of the Keystone XL pipeline earlier this year, as well as our government's approval of the Trans Mountain expansion and Line 3 replacement pipelines last November, also contributing factors? None of these projects were certainties at the time the Energy East project was proposed. Finally, we don't know if the C.D. Howe Institute was onto something when the changing economics behind Energy East, after TransCanada received regulatory approval to slash the price it charges to move Western natural gas to Ontario. All we know is that according to CD Howe, natural gas producers have been signing up in droves with TransCanada ever since. So, Mr. Speaker, to suggest that a $15.7 billion investment hinged on the National Energy Board's decision to review the downstream emissions from the Energy East pipeline suggests a profound ignorance of the myriad of factors that go into the business decision. It also ignores our government's very clear response to the NEB's decision to expand the scope of their review. First, we offered to conduct the upstream and downstream GHG assessments within the legislative time frame to avoid added costs and delays to the proponent. Second, we made it very clear that our government would ultimately use the same criteria, our January 2016 interim principles, that we apply to our reviews of other major energy projects, including the TMX and Line 3 pipelines. As the Minister of Natural Resources has said repeatedly, nothing has changed from our perspective. Mr. Speaker, our approval of the Trans Mountain expansion and Line 3 pipelines was based on solid science, meaningful consultations, and the best interests of Canada. It would have been our same approach to the Energy East proposal, nothing more and nothing less. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for